Services Committee to order, and first agenda is call the roll. Are there any commissioners off-site?
Chair, this is Commissioner Song, participating remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Thank you. Any other? We'll now go to Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, number 3, adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Zinner, second.
Commissioner Romano made a motion to adopt the agenda, and Commissioner Zinner second. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the last joint meeting of the Internal Services and the Records and Public Safety Committee. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
So
Approve.
move, Paul.
Is there a second?
Second, Zinner.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall makes a motion to approve the minutes, and Commissioner Zinner seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Item 5, public participation. This is the chance for, first opportunity for public participation is for those to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item on today's agenda. There'll be an opportunity for public participation later for any subject. Prosecutor Lucido.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak. And thank you to the Vice Chair and members of the board. I'm here to speak in support of the 2 projects under agenda item number 7 in the IT department budget. The reason why I'm coming up here at this time is because I have other duties and responsibilities, and I want to make sure that at least I'm heard, and I appreciate the opportunity of being heard. I can appreciate every bit of effort the IT department director did, Jaco von Blark, in support for the digital evidence management system, which is slated to go in for 2022 if it's so adopted, as well as the case management system slated for 2023. One is digital. Today's technology world has brought us into the space ages regarding digital that comes before the office. It's important because we are facing literally a tsunami of digital technology coming from 27 different law enforcement agencies throughout the county. This includes the body cams from police officers, from businesses, from homeowners, security videos, including door cams. This also includes much, much more. We have the in-car videos. All of this technology is coming at us in such a sophisticated way that we're still burning them in CD-ROMs. It's amazing, but we're still using CD-ROMs to burn this information. This information is necessary, and it also is constitutionally mandated by statute to give to the Defense Council. So what I'm here today is that we need this digital evidence management system, and I'm thankful for our IT department to help us to pursue not only our request for the proposal, but the time they spent. We had 2 people from IT in there daily to go ask questions of all of the prosecutors as well as the frontline informational people. They sat there and asked them, how are you doing it now? Why do you do this now like this? We don't have any other choice. And I appreciate the police departments that also participated in lettering, not only myself, but also the other departments in coming to this fruition. We need this new case management system because, like the prosecutor's version of the case management system that we are working with right now and considering today in the district court, we want to get this up and running, and I welcome our IT department's support for this, which is also slated for 2023. I want to update you on another project that's on the way, and that's this. We're working with the IT department to get the internet and Wi-Fi access for assistant prosecutors to go to these courts. We were given laptops to go work in, and during the pandemic, to work from home. We can't even work in the court systems because they don't have the Wi-Fi necessary, but we're getting it now. We're getting it there. And I want to thank, and I know Jaco is here, I want to thank him. It's a lot of work, a lot of talking. So we're getting that together too, so we can get our assistant prosecutors in the courtroom and help out those victims of this county and do it expeditiously, right there on the computer. Finally, with the help of our IT department, we successfully upgraded and replaced approximately 40 of the laptop computers for the assistant prosecuting attorneys. This is a long, long leap compared to where we were. So I look forward to speaking with you again on October 26th in detail about the prosecutor's budget, introduce you to some of the team, because I think it's important for you to know the team. We're here to work with you. We're here to get things accomplished. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Anyone else for public participation? Anyone else for public participation? Okay, we'll close public participation, move on to item 6A. A budget amendment for capital improvement fund, owner representation services for the Macomb County Sheriff's Office Marine Patrol Boathouse project. Lynn?
Good afternoon. This item is requesting authorization to execute the contract for professional services provided by Plante, Moran, Cresa, and that would be program management services for the boathouse and the seawall construction.
Excuse me, Lynn. I forgot something. Can I have a motion to move the full board?
So move, Hall.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Wallace to move the full board. Thank you. Continue, Lynn. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, no problem. Plante Moran Cresa has successfully performed program management services for the county in the past. They did the downtown project. They also did the road vehicle maintenance facility, and most recently, the medical examiner's office addition and renovation projects. One of the key components in a successful construction project is to keep the lines of communication open. They have to make sure that each project team member is receiving the answers that they need and supplying information to the other team members in order to achieve a successful project. Throughout the various stages of construction, the program manager will assist and advise the county and the project team relative to items that may occur during the course of construction. For instance, during the bidding phase, the construction or the program manager will promote bid coverage. They will also review bids and qualifications with the project team. They also assist in arranging for vendor coordination with Macomb County's outside vendors for technology, security, furniture, and other equipment. They also monitor the budget. They keep track of the schedule. What comes up in construction projects, and you will get hundreds of these from contractors or their subcontractors, are RFIs. RFIs are actually requests for information, and oftentimes the contractor or his subs will require additional information, clarification in order to achieve the design intent, and in some situations they actually have to have a modification due to field conditions. The program manager, it is important that they develop a tracking system for these RIFs, and they also establish deadlines. But because we need to meet the deadlines, otherwise progress will slow down and in some cases can even halt construction. The program manager also reviews and monitors the payment applications, cash flow monitoring. They also assist in relocation management. In order to construct the boathouse, they will actually have to vacate that facility. So we will have to temporarily house them, and it's imperative that they are able to do all their functions during this construction project. We also have project startup. They will make sure that all the equipment is what we call commissioned, so they will make sure that it's operating correctly. They also assist in the closeout of the project. You sort of think you get to the end phase, but that is one of the most critical phases, because you want to make sure that all the punch list items are taken care of. You want to make sure that you're receiving all full unconditional waivers from not only the contractor, the general contractor, but all his subs. You also want to receive consent of surety to make the final payment. And one of the most important things for us is to receive as-built drawings. And they will make sure that we have those drawings, that we receive the operations and maintenance manuals. They'll make sure our staff has been trained, and sometimes the end user staff needs to be trained. They also will make sure that we receive all warranties that were indicated within the documents, and they will follow up on the warranty work. We feel that the program management services is really an integral member of the project team. Therefore, we are requesting authorization to execute this contract and transfer $220,000 plus $5,000 in reimbursable expense from the general fund to the capital improvement fund to provide this service.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
I was just reading this statement, and you touched on it on the 5,000 reimbursable expenses. Is it motion to approve budget amendment for facilities operation in the amount of $220,000 plus $5,000 reimbursable expenses by decreasing general fund non-departmental capital outlay with a corresponding increase to operating transfers out to transfer funds into the capital improvement fund for the owner representation services with Plante, Moran, Cresa for the Macomb County Sheriff's Office Marine Patrol Boathouse? What does that say?
That's why I shorten it, transferring $220,000 plus $5,000 reimbursable from the general fund to the capital improvement fund. I'm sure Steve can explain all the fancy words.
Well, his reputation was a little tainted yesterday, so you're probably better off yourself. So it is a transfer
Yes,
from,
from the general fund into the capital improvement fund.
okay, so the project would be $225,000, is that correct?
That is for the program management services plus $5,000 in reimbursable expense. So that would be like the mileage, any reproduction of documents, that kind of thing, is
Thank
the
you.
reimbursables.
Much clearer than that statement, so thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
You know, I just want to say that this was something we had on the back burner a couple of years ago that needed to be done at that time, and
Yes.
unfortunately, the money was not there. Sheriff Wickersham, giving credit to him, was patient enough to say, hey, when it's there, we need it, we have to have it, and here it is, it's come to pass. So I think it's a great project, and I think it was long overdue, but I'm glad that we now have the funds to take care of it. That's my only statement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. 6B is a continuation, really, of this for the owner representation services for the Macomb County Sheriff's Office Marine Patrol Boathouse project for the $220,000 plus $5,000 in reimbursed expenses.
Support from Farrington.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano made motion to move the full board, supported by Commissioner Farrington. Did you wish to say anything on this, Lynn?
No, it's
You
the
don't.
actual
It's just-
budget
yeah.
amendment.
Seeing no speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12 to 0.
Okay, I'd like to take 6C and D together. Budget amendment for capital improvement fund, air handling unit, retrofit, temperature controls for $92,130.
I'll make the motion to go to full board. Farrington?
Second, Zinner.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrington made a motion to move this to full board, supported by Commissioner Commissioner Zinner. Excuse me. Lynn?
This item involves the installation of DDC controls on air handler number 2 and the associated exhaust fan 2A and 2B. What the air handler actually does is it's a component of the HVAC system, and its job is to move air. Currently, this air handler is equipped with pneumatic controls that are tied into a temperature sensor, almost like a thermostat. I believe I attached a picture, at least I hope I did, and tried to illustrate what it depicts is 6 out of the 16 controllers, pneumatic controls that would be replaced. These controllers control 16 zones within the jail. The pneumatic controls are not able to be tied into a building management system. With the current pneumatic controls, if we have any leaks in the lines or tubing, it will actually shut down all 16 zones. With DGC controls, if there is a leak, it will only shut down that particular zone impacted. Our building management system is an automated logic, which is web controlled. A building management system is a computer-based control system. The core function is to manage or control the interior environment of a building. This system controls the heating and cooling and also the air distribution throughout the facility. It controls the air by operating the fans and also opening and closing the dampers. Our building management system is operated and monitored by our boiler refrigeration personnel and our mechanical systems supervisor. We have this control or building management system in 18 of our facilities, controlling the HVAC system in whole or in part in these facilities. Metro Control Inc. is the local authorized dealer for the automated logic system. They're located in Clinton Township. They also have a parts distribution counter that is local where we can obtain parts, and they are knowledgeable of our mechanical systems. Metro Control is also able to remotely troubleshoot our equipment in the event that we are unable to correct an issue. Metro Control's workers also have gone through the required background check to work in the jail and the JJC. They're also very familiar with the safety protocol required in the facilities. This project was targeted for 2021, and it was identified in the capital plan under Building Management System. We are therefore requesting authorization to transfer $92,130 from the general fund to the capital improvement fund and authorize to issue a purchase order to Metro Controls in the amount of $92,130.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Lynn. What year were those put in?
They're original, so we're in the neighborhood of 1985, 86. The facility opened in 87.
Okay, so this is the first time they've been retrofitted?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12 to 0.
Thank you. 6E, maintenance agreement, Bentley MicroStation, SignCAD OpenRoads designer, Leap Bridge Systems for Roads for $40,170. Do I hear a motion to forward to full board?
Motion to forward to full board.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano made a motion to forward this to full board, and Commissioner Wallace supported. Jacob.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is one of the maintenance agreements that we bring to you. Bentley software used by the Department of Roads in their engineering department had many different types of software included, for example, CAD and things like that. So it's just a maintenance request for $40,170, to be paid this year. And the funding is in the Roads Department budget.
Do you know how long they've been using this software?
Since I learned about Department of Roads and, what's going on in the department, probably about 9 years ago, they have been using it since then, so probably prior to that as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. 6F, Budget Amendment, Capital Improvement Fund, Vic Wertz Surveillance System for $49,700. Do I have a motion to recommend to full board?
Second, Zinner.
Thank you. Motion to move to full board by Commissioner Wallace, supported by Commissioner Nard. Jacob?
The Macomb County Central Stores and Food Warehouse, located at the Vic Wertz building on M59, have experienced inventory losses over the past year or two. Due to this, decision was made to put a surveillance system at all the critical access points to make sure that they can prevent such losses in the future. And that is what this request is for. There's a list of 8 cameras, internal and 2 external, and then the rest of the equipment is storage and video and so forth.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrington?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jacob. I have a couple questions. I guess currently there is no security being handled. I saw in the documentation that inventory has been stolen. How much has been stolen?
The number I do not know. I was just informed of this, about 3-4 months ago that this has happened. But I can get you those numbers.
Yeah, I think that's relevant. If we're going to spend, this money to handle the problem, we got to know how big of a problem it is, since it's inventory and not human life. The bid exemption said that the company has innate knowledge, I believe. I don't see how a security company has innate knowledge of a warehouse. So can you help describe that to me? I believe there's a bid exemption, if I remember right, when I read it. It said they had knowledge of this personal situation, of this situation. I'm trying to figure out how a warehouse filled with goods can be something that they have innate knowledge that any security company couldn't go in there and do.
The company that we use is, currently, and we've used them since we did the downtown renovation project. They've also done the jail camera surveillance project, a company called Motor City. They've been working with us now for quite a few years and really know the county systems. Whether they know the outlay there, they most likely did a walkthrough with our staff.
Okay, and if I could, Chair, one more thing. I guess you answered this. I was wondering why it's coming out of capital outlay and not budget, but you said you just found out 6 months ago about it, correct?
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I'll be supporting it based on some of the answers and information. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matusik?
Less a question, more a comment. I get really nervous when we have bid exemptions because we've worked with somebody in the past. I think that does not, number one, promote the sort of diversity and inclusion we hope for. And number two, it's how people get in trouble. Well, we've always used this company. It's just, I'm very cautious about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Jaco.
Hi,
Jaco,
Commissioner.
this is a warehouse we're talking about, right?
That's correct.
Maybe it's just me. This is a surveillance system. Why don't we just put an alarm system on there instead of a surveillance system and save a whole lot of money? I'm asking because what do we need a surveillance system for a warehouse when I guess an alarm system, both doors, would take care of the same problem at a much cheaper rate? And your response would be?
My response, would be, personally, if I was in that building with a surveillance system, learning who's moving where in the building, I would think that would help and understand what's going on. I don't know that people know who or why. Let me put it this way: know why stuff disappear from there. Who's doing it? Because there's many people that have access to the building from many different entrances. At the back, by central stores, by F&O and so forth, more so to the front, and then also, the other areas, the food warehouse. So I don't know that they really understand, how these things disappear or how inventory gets lost. And I think surveillance system would provide insight into that.
Thank you. What is a surveillance system? Who's watching the cameras?
The cameras is just the same as we have in the jail. In other words, people on site are responsible for, if they suspect theft and so forth, they are responsible for watching those cameras. Now, whether the cameras are being watched 24/7, I don't think that's really possible. We don't necessarily do it that way, but we have a retention schedule for each department, and depending on what they need that, it varies from 2 weeks in some places to other areas like the sheriff's office, 60 days. So
I got to check. I'm thinking more of a breaking and entering type situation, whereas you're talking about light-fingered Louis taking some of the products. So I can understand why you would have probably now a surveillance system. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Jaco.
Hi,
I know we've used this contractor in the past. I guess I'm kind of surprised if we've used them in the past, why they haven't kind of done a full audit of all of our facilities, in the past. I mean, now we have a problem. Now we're going right back to them. Did they ever bring this up in the past to us?
Yeah, I can definitely understand why you're asking that question, but I think the way that our surveillance in the county has been handled has not been that direction to ask a company to come in and do a full audit of all county facilities. I cannot remember that we've ever requested that specifically or asked for that. There's obviously budget constraints as well. We have money allocated every year in our budget, for those requests, but it is just on a case-by-case basis.
So are there any other facilities that we have that we do not have, I'm going to call this exterior surveillance installed?
There's definitely facilities where we don't have exterior surveillance, and I'm talking about smaller facilities outside of the downtown campus and places like that. The surveillance portion has always been very prominent in the jail, sheriff's office, the whole building, and there we have, cameras all over. With the downtown renovation project, they did surveillance for these buildings, this one next door, and
I remember that.
yeah. So at that point in time, it became more the norm to do that. We also did that when we did the Comtech building. But it is costly, without a doubt, and I think the decision was made at some point to just do it on a case-by-case basis.
Is there any ongoing maintenance costs related to these, to the
The
surveillance?
maintenance
that-
cost
that
for
they
the
charge
cameras
us?
is pretty low.
Okay.
There's, when they install them, it's under warranty, so it's pretty low. At the sheriff's office, we do have some maintenance costs because their system is getting old, or some of the system is getting old. We've replaced about 2/3 of the cameras there, but the ones that are old are breaking and so on, so we have a small line item to cover any broken cameras and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Jaco.
Hi, Commissioner.
I completely agree with Commissioner Matuzak. I don't have a problem with what you're trying to do as far as putting the cameras up, and for security reasons, I understand that. However, this not being bid out because you've used this company before or you're familiar with them, I don't think is a good enough reason for us not to have other options and to see who else could do this potentially same job. I know we've brought this up as a board many times before, so like I said, I don't have a problem with the cameras and everything. I understand that, but I would like to see this bid out. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Jaco.
Hi, Commissioner.
Yeah, I don't know if there's someone here who hasn't taken a walk through that area. It is massive. There are walls, there are partitions, there are different rooms. You can hide and seek pretty well in that place. And I'm sorry to hear that there's been a problem recently. It would be nice to have a manager from that area, but someone might be off on a leave or something. So I hand this all to you. I don't necessarily have a problem with you using a company that you're familiar with and that is familiar with our way of doing things or your way of doing things. And that's it. Thank you very much, sir.
Commissioner Matuzak.
All right, so now I'm trying to understand the problem. Items from the warehouse are missing. Food items, I'm assuming we're talking mostly food here. They could be misshelved. They could be too much loaded onto a truck. There could be people actually stealing things. What exactly is the scope of the problem we're trying to solve?
It's probably all of the things that you just mentioned, Commissioner. And I think at this point in time, I don't know that the people know exactly what the reason is why it's disappeared. But they definitely suspect that there's a problem. And that's the reason for the request.
Because it would certainly be a lot less expensive to beef up the systems process, loading trucks, making sure inventory is accurate. I mean, we're sort of jumping straight to people are stealing things, and I'm not clear that that's the problem. And I would really like to hear more information about, I mean, are we missing, pallets of stuff? Are we missing...
Yeah, I will find out.
I'm trying to figure out, I would like to identify the problem before we figure out how to solve it, I guess, is where I'm coming from. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I have one comment, one question. And the audit that Commissioner Sabatini mentioned, a lot of times companies will do that for free because it gives them an opportunity to sell more services. So saying it's not in the budget kind of confused me, because they will go through and say, hey, we'll give you a full system audit, because they're hoping to do add-on services. So keep that in mind. And you probably already know that. I understand when we are doing the jail cell, the camera system, someone that knows the jail system intimately, I get that because of the complexity of those issues. So my question on this warehouse, is this hooked into the security of the rest of the county? Or is it a standalone, because you said no one's really watching it 24/7 anyways. So it sounds like it's a camera that you can just pull tape to analyze it later, which means There is no reason that it should be tied in with the other contracts. Is that an accurate assessment?
It has the typical way that we do these systems is we put a video recorder in the building and not pull it over our internal network back to Comtech. We do keep, like I said, retention of videos. So retention is mostly stored on our iSalon at Comtech. So once, it's has to be retained for, say, 2 weeks, we take a copy and put it at Comtech, on our iSalon. Having it in a specific area and having them responsible for that, obviously, we don't have the ability or the personnel to take care of that. It's the departments themselves that are responsible for that. At the sheriff's office, I know they have personnel that look at some of those cameras pretty much all the time, but that is in the very crucial areas. Definitely not all of them. In other areas, we don't really watch or look at cameras. I'm just taking Comtech where we reside. We don't look at the cameras, but we retain the video for 2 weeks. So if there's an incident, a request is made, and then we provide the video for that purpose.
So if you have the current provider and you have a new provider, both providing security services, there is nothing from a technological perspective that hinders you from using 2 vendors?
There is nothing from a technological perspective that stops us from using it. I can tell you from an IT standpoint, I prefer to have 1 vendor, and the reason for that is very simple. There's so many places in the county where we put cameras. It's the same with cabling, with everything that we do. If you start entering multiple vendors into the picture, then you have to, okay, it's this building, who do I call? And it becomes really complex and difficult to support. Where it is easier if you have 1 company that you can contact and say, I have issues at this and this building, can you come out and take a look at it? So from that standpoint, but I most certainly understand the fact that there's commissioners that's concerned about bidding this out. I have no problem with bidding stuff. We do it all the time. As a matter of fact, I'll come to you next month with a bunch of bids that we've done for other purposes. It's just that this vendor has been used. We have bid out over the past 3-4 years. We have bid out specific projects where this vendor won. And one of them is Department of Roads, their new center. A satellite center that's I think it's now finished. They did that one, and they're very familiar with the county and the cameras and stuff that we need. So, but like I said, I have no problem with bidding things out. The the fact that we use a sole source, situation is obviously something I put through our purchasing department, to our executive office, and when that's approved, it is one of the ways we can purchase stuff. And if the board wants us to go and bid it out, then we'll bid it out.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jaco, one more thing to add to your research project for information. I kind of agree with Commissioner Farrington about the value of what's been taken or misplaced, whatever it is, because if it's $50 worth of stuff and this is a $50,000 project, I'm not on board with that. But I'm curious what the overall, we'll say, average value of supplies that are in that warehouse on any given day, because if it's $50 million worth of stuff, then $50,000 surveillance cameras doesn't seem so bad. I really hope there's not $50 million worth of stuff in there, but you catch my point. So I'm going to vote yes to move this forward to full board, but I would like that to be a piece of the research you do. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, we'll try and do that. Obviously, central storage is there, which is a big part of this, and we'll try and see if we can do some sort of an assessment.
A good guesstimate.
Value.
Thank you, Jaco. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have a question or two. with this surveillance system, I understand the reason why somebody wouldn't be watching it all the time. It makes no sense to waste man-hours doing that. But is this security surveillance system smart enough to know that a camera has been knocked offline and reported out as an alarm?
Yes, the system can notify you when a camera is out.
Okay, good. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 9-3. Commissioners Wallace, Sabatini, and Farrington voting no.
Thank you. 6G, a purchase from Motor City Electric Technologies. Oh, that was for the, okay, this is for the same surveillance system. Sorry, I should have combined it. I need a motion to submit to full board. Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano made a motion to move to full board, and Commissioner Zinner supported it. Seeing no speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 9-3. Commissioners Wallace, Sabatini, and Farrington voting no.
Okay, I'd like to take 6H and I together. A motion to recommend to full board
So
for
moved by
the
Nard.
Support.
budget
Hall.
amendment, capital improvement fund, 42nd District Court Management System. Who was that?
So moved by Nard.
I support.
Thank you. Commissioner Nard made the motion to move to recommend to full board, and Commissioner Haas supported. Jaco?
Macomb County District Courts, including Warren, Centerline, Romeo, and New Baltimore, have been using a system called Quadtran for their case management system over the past several years. Based on a lawsuit that was filed between Warren District Court and Quadtran, it is imperative that we implement a different system, which is a state solution called JIS, for all these districts. Warren has to do theirs because of a court order by January 15th. We, at this point in time, have an agreement with Quadtran to until I think June or July of next year, and then that agreement expires. We believe that for us it's going to be extremely difficult to negotiate a new maintenance or support agreement. That's one part of it. The other part of it is we are extremely concerned about our data because the essence of this court case is about giving the data back to Warren, which they have a tough time doing. So from that standpoint, we believe we should move to a new system as soon as possible so that we can at least prevent future data loss. We'll see what happens with our current data. We have involved our legal department in this, and we've written letters to them at this point in time and waiting for responses. But that's where we are. So part of this too is also, I think, the third item from now. We have an agreement, an intergovernmental agreement. We are going to help and assist Warren and the other courts to do their, and that's more from a project management standpoint, to do that because they don't have the capability, in-house capability to do this. And we're working with the state of Michigan to do this for all 4 courts. We have to do, like I said, Warren by January 15th, but we will go after that. And that is what we're asking for today, is to get this implemented as soon as possible.
Thank you. Commissioner Haw?
Thank you, Chair. So, Jacob, part of this is mandated by a court order, Is that correct?
Yep, and that part is the part for Warren.
For
Because exactly.
By implementation in the other courts, do you envision any short-term or long-term cost savings by doing this?
I don't really foresee any short or long-term cost savings for us as an organization. We are just going to build them back. The intergovernmental agreement is for project management fees and things like that, so we're just going to build that back per contract to them. It's just that they don't have the capability to do that, and we are going to set up training and everything for this product, the new product that's coming in. So we are going to do all that at IT. We're going to do it for ourselves. We will do it for these district courts as well.
So it's a service in addition to a system that you're going to provide to the courts.
That is correct.
The county's going to provide to the courts, correct? Yeah. Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Jacob, what about all the other district courts in the county? Are they going to be getting the same type of service?
I quite honestly don't know what the other district courts are doing. Lisa might be able to answer that question.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Ellis. I'm the court administrator at the Romeo District Court. Most of the other county courts are already on the JIS state system that we're looking to move to. The only exception to that would be Roseville Fraser. They're on a JMS system that's a private system, and I believe at some point in the future they'll also look to move to JIS with the state.
Is that something that's going to be required by the state, that we be on the same system, ideally?
It's not currently required by the state, but they are moving in that direction. They have a task force together right now that's studying state funding for some courts, and the computer system would be part of that. They want to move to a centralized computer system so that all the district courts and possibly eventually the circuit courts are talking the same language, so to speak. So that's something they're looking at for the future. We're hopefully getting ahead of the game before it's mandated and moving to that. But all the other district courts, Clinton Township, St. Clair Shores, Sterling Heights, Shelby Township, they're all already on this JIS state system.
Chico, you said there was a deadline related to this?
There's a deadline related to Warren,
Okay.
which is January 15th. For us, it's not a deadline, but it is a very, very tough date to go beyond. And that is June, when our contract expires with Quatran.
Of 2022? June of
23.
23.
Yeah, so we cannot be without a contract with Quatran. It is hard and difficult as is. And that will just complicate things for us even more.
So I know we're talking about a central intake here too with the sheriff, and we're talking about trying to get all these systems in line across the county. Would it make more sense for us to handle this in a different manner and try and get everyone in the same system? Because ideally, I think that was the whole intent of having central intake, having everything in one unique system. Steve, am I speaking the right language here? Because I think it would make sense to do this the right way rather than do this in multiple layers and working backwards.
Yeah, Commissioner, I don't know if Lisa can comment further, but I think what the systems that the district courts use is kind of outside the realm of the central intake.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about a jail management system. I don't know if that would tie into, the district court system at all. So, and I think there's more timing issues here in terms of contracts versus when we would have the central intake center up anyways.
Okay.
So.
I'm going to support this to move this forward, but I do want to get some more clarity on this.
Just also clarification, it's June of 22, not 23. I was a year ahead.
Thank you, Jacob.
Commissioner Matusik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. I'm not familiar with this court case, so I'm trying to work this in. Is this a case where this company is holding people's data hostage?
You can call it that. I mean, it's so difficult because we have the person that's in the middle of this in all our meetings that we have from Warren. And what they pretty much do is they cut them off from access to their system regularly. Although the court told them they cannot do that, they do it. It's an IT system, so you can just say it's down or something is not right, and they're down. I mean, that happens. So that kind of thing is happening frequently. And they're just making life really, really difficult for them.
And so one of the issues is that if we do switch over to another system, is we're going to lose all the historical data.
That is probably going to end up most likely in litigation. We believe with the contract that we have in place that the data should be provided to us. It's stipulated like that in the contract, but they provide it in a proprietary format that we cannot read. So we have to go through that process, and that's why we involved legal in the process as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jake, are these various courts, do they have their system installed locally at the court, or is it back to a server at Comtech, or how is the structure of that?
As far as I know, the JS system is a cloud system, right? Yeah.
JIS is Quadran is not.
Quadran, it's a cloud system. Quadran is hosted by the company, and we dial into the system.
The JIS is cloud?
Cloud-based.
Do each of the courts have their own cloud, if you will, or is Macomb County all in one big container, so to speak?
I would most certainly think it's not going to be one big container. There might be some data sharing. I don't know the level of that, but obviously it's a state system, and the state being involved in that, I'm pretty sure that it will be segregated where it needs to be.
Well, that's where I was going. Could they share any data back and forth? So, okay, thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Okay, on to 6J, Intergovernmental Agreement, Macomb County and 42nd District Courts, Judicial Information System, Court Management System. Jacob. Oh, excuse me. I'd like a motion to recommend the full
Farrington,
board.
I'll make the motion to go to full board.
Support by Nard.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrington made a motion to move to full board, and Commissioner Nard seconded it. Jacob.
Commissioners, this is the portion that I referred to earlier, which is the intergovernmental agreement with Warren, so that we can provide project management services at the same time that we do our system. So as you can see there in the document, it's limited to $16,000, which is 1/3 of the total hours of 480. The other 2/3 will be taken up by the county for our system. And we are, obviously per this contract, will bill them back for that, and they will take this agreement to their board as well.
Thank you. I see no speakers. Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. That ends Section 6. Section 7, Budget Reviews. 7A is Facilities and Operations. What kind of motion do I need?
I'll make the motion to receive and file. Farrington.
Thank you.
Support Wallace.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrington made a motion to receive and file, seconded by Commissioner Wallace. Lynn?
Facilities and Operations is responsible for the operations and maintenance of county facilities and grounds. We are maintaining approximately 1.7 million square feet. The facilities consists of skilled trades personnel, boiler refrigeration personnel, custodial personnel, security personnel, and a small administrative staff. It's the facilities budget that bears the expense of the electric bills, natural gas, water sewer, garbage pickup, recycling pickup, snow removal, grass cutting, janitorial services and supplies, elevator repair and maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance, building repair and maintenance. We bear the telephone expense as it relates to fire alarms, boiler alarms, sump pump alarms. We also have the elevator emergency call system and loss of power alarms. We also bear the expense for property insurance, liability insurance, and this budget also includes funding for roofing repairs and replacements, paving and sidewalk replacements, hazardous materials abatement, floor covering repairs and replacement, tuck pointing or any building envelope issue. We have miscellaneous remodeling. We're looking at doing an elevator assessment and an underground sanitary and water line assessment. Boiler refrigeration personnel utilize a work order system. Once a work order is generated, it is assigned to the appropriate personnel. Once the work order is complete, materials and labor costs are applied, and the appropriate building and line item is charged. Custodial personnel are assigned to a building, and within the building, they're assigned to areas or floors. Security personnel, they're assigned to shifts. They monitor the parking deck. They also open the buildings in the morning. They respond to vendors that require access to certain areas. They monitor evening events. They secure the building in the evening, and they also conduct rounds. They make sure all the lights are turned off, equipment is turned off, and they also alert us to any building issue that might require immediate attention. In the 2022 budget, we did not ask for any additional personnel. The overall increase from 2021 to 2022 is an increase of $326,490. Of the $326,490, $180,090 is due to personnel expense increases. We also have a main category of supplies and services. This reflects an increase from 2020 to 2022 of $105,100. What typically you charge to the supplies and services account is janitorial supplies and services, security services, grass cutting, snow removal, garbage pickup, recycling pickup, and a hazardous waste disposal. What we requested in the 2022 was an allocation of an additional $50,000 to be specifically designated to make improvements to the grounds and landscape area. We have a tremendous amount of trees that need trimming. We have dead shrubs that need to be removed and require replacement with low maintenance plantings. We have to reestablish some plantings in the rain garden over at Public Works. Also, we have recently assumed the custodial maintenance at the Family Resource Center. So that has added to the increased amount in this particular line item. We also have the medical examiners, that there was a slight increase to the additions performed at that facility. A new item for us is conference and training. This is a new line item for us, and we are requesting $3,000. We are providing or going to provide training not only to facilities and operations personnel, but also other departments where applicable. So we will have aerial platform training, lockout tagout training, we have arc flash training, fall protection. We will be rolling out a CPR and first aid training. And this $3,000 is to cover expenses for the training materials and also certificates of completion. The utilities budget, I'd like to say cautiously, we've projected a decrease of $170,300. It always makes me nervous because we seem to be experiencing very extreme, so we'll have extreme hot weather, extreme cold weather. But based on some averages, we think we're going to be in pretty good shape and can decrease that budget. The repairs and maintenance budget, we are showing a slight increase of $27,300 over 2021. This category has building repair and maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance, and elevator repair and maintenance. It also is the line item that we would pay for roof repairs and replacements, floor covering repairs and replacements, tuck pointing or any building envelope issue. We have something that we have an ongoing maintenance with the court building precast, where we have to do inspections, repair, and periodically resealing the entire building. We also have a small remodeling we factor in. Oftentimes we'll receive requests from departments requesting maybe they've changed the way they deliver services and they require small counter modifications. Sometimes we have where they have increased personnel and we are trying to rearrange either cubicles or providing an office, so we might separate a conference room into 2 offices. We also, as I indicated, we took over the maintenance at the Family Resource Center. So we think that's going to impact the budget slightly. We also have a slight increase due to the medical examiner's project being completed. Another item that we have in our budget is vehicle operations. We have approximately 35 vehicles. We also have some tractors, plows. So this is the budget where we have the gasoline expense, repairs on vehicles, and also maintenance of vehicles. The contracted services, we requested a slight increase of $18,500. These are items that are like window cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning. We have a mat contract that is extremely beneficial to us in the winter, where they will come in on a periodic basis and replace the entryway mats. So also because of the Family Resource Center, we expect a slight increase. In internal services, we are showing an increase of $172,600. It is this line item that the liability insurance is paid, the property insurance. We have vehicle insurance. There's some copier cost. This is where the telephone expense occurs, and also the indirect cost allocation. And then we have a budget for capital outlay. That is for replacement of equipment, whether it be trades or boiler refrigeration equipment, portable generators, scissor lifts. So it's items like that, and we have projected a decrease of $4,800. I don't know if there's any questions.
Commissioner Matusek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some questions. So we have assumed the maintenance on the Family Resource Center. Why is that?
This is where community action is located, and apparently the school district is not responding to some of the needs or is unable to respond.
Does the building still belong to the school district?
Yes, it does.
Okay, but they are no longer doing maintenance in a way
correct.
we think are satisfactory.
That's correct.
Okay, I was concerned about that. Questions, charges for services, what falls under that? Revenues?
We work under a work order system, so we actually charge the buildings.
Okay. Reimbursements? What is that?
Reimbursable expense?
It's reversed.
It's reversed.
It's reversed. So the reimbursements are the chargebacks to the departments from the skilled trades department
Okay.
for electrical work or carpentry or whatever. Charges for services, most of that is actually building rentals. And most of that's internal actually too. Vast majority of that, maybe 900,000 or $1 million, is from Martha T. Berry.
Okay.
And then we have some other internal departments, that health department, community mental health, that rent space, either Vaculin or Southeast Health.
Okay, so those rents go back to this budget?
The rents go back to this budget. All the maintenance costs and everything else are in this budget as well for those buildings.
All right, well, you should stay there, because that's my next question.
I'm glad he's here, because I'd
And then
call it
those
a
are all
building
charged out
rental.
through the indirect cost.
Right,
If you
no,
wanna
I
go-
got it.
If you want to go
So
that
the
far.
I want to go back to the internal services thing, because it seems to me this department generates most of the costs around internal services that get spread out to everybody else.
It's a significant portion because of the building costs and depreciation and all that sort of thing. You'll see that IT is a significant portion of the costs as well.
Okay, so in terms of their internal services costs here, I get the insurance, I get the accounting system, I get all of that sort of stuff. What else is in here?
In terms of their internal services?
Yeah.
They will in turn get charged from my office, HR, corp counsel, IT, purchasing, mailroom. I could go on without.
Okay, no, because yesterday when you were talking about it, it was yesterday, you mentioned a lot of things that I thought belonged in this budget, this department's budget. And so then I was a little concerned about that. All right, now I'm done with you now. You sort of in passing mentioned extreme weather events that we seem to be having more and more of. Has this department sort of thought through contingencies about that in terms of building things into the budget for potential problems related to these seemingly increasing extreme weather events?
We certainly always have problems, and a lot of it will fall into building repair and maintenance. We can have a sprinkler head freeze. Yeah, we have experienced all of those things, and we believe we can handle it within this budget.
Within this budget,
Yes.
okay, because it strikes me that we need to start projecting that further out as this extreme weather seems to overtake us. So, and then my last question, I know, I'm sorry. We've learned from COVID about air exchange and how important that is in the buildings. And so when we're doing maintenance, are we paying special attention to air exchange within the buildings?
Yes, and we certainly change filters on a schedule. And also in all building design, they're focusing more attention on circulating air and how much outside air you bring in.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Lynn. I guess I have a couple questions. Looking at supplies and services, and you mentioned $50,000 for landscaping out of a $100,000 increase from last year. I'm looking at a tripling of the category from 2019. So can you help explain why janitorial services, landscaping, and the such would triple over 3 years, but then flatten for the next 3 years in your forecast? To me, that makes absolutely zero sense. So if you could help help learn me.
Helping learn you is, I had the same question. So I looked back and the, where was it here? In 2019, let me see here, the grounds repair and maintenance, which is snow removal, grounds maintenance, landscaping and all that, was not in this particular category.
How much was that for?
It's about 500,000.
There you go. All right.
And it was in, that's what I'm trying to refresh my memory, is where we had it at that point in time. And it's in repair, it was in repairs and maintenance. But it's.
So shouldn't we see repairs and maintenance go down by $500,000 instead of up
It
by
did. So
700,000?
repairs and maintenance went from 4.9
in 2019
to 4.1 in 2020. And then you'll see supplies and services
Yes.
went from 300 to 600.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I guess I'm going to kind of reverse a question from what I normally say. You have 7 fewer people than you did 2 years ago.
Yes. We were
How is that
definitely in financial concerns during that year, and we went through and took a look at where could we do without? How can we share? Like an employee will handle more than one building or one area. So it was, fortunately, they were all vacant positions, so it didn't impact, no one was laid off in the process. It's been a real juggling act, but we are concerned, about the budget and the future. So we take a real critical look. A lot of our line items aren't always predictable. Snow removal can actually destroy our budget, and it depends on time of year, or not time of year, but when it snows, how much snow we're getting, how many times they have to come back and plow. So that's always a real volatile item for us. Grass cutting, that's easy. And building repair, we never know what's going to break, what requests are coming in. The jail is probably our hardest use building, so we never know what kind of work orders we're going to get out of the jail. So some years are good, some years are bad.
I guess the last thing is a request or a favor. When we heard some of the departments yesterday, it was personnel costs. It's all part of the wage scale. It's built in. And yet not only did you chop people, but you kept your personnel costs lower than they were 3 years ago. Perhaps you can give a seminar to some other departments.
I probably have to.
That was just a joke. That's a joke. Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you do there.
So what you'll see is it's essentially because Lynn has been able to unfund positions is really what's going on there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have both Steve's and Dave watching me all the time.
Thank you, Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Steve, you could just sit next to the podium for the budget hearings. So I got a few questions. First, in regards to what you submitted to us, Lynn, can you talk about creation of a countywide respirator protection plan?
Yes, whenever you have a dust mask, you actually need a formal respirator program. People have to be able to medically wear these respirators. We also have some employees that would wear an actual respirator that has a HEPA filter. And you have to maintain that respirator. And you also have to have medical clearance that they're able to wear a respirator. So we're trying to get more training involved. So that's the purpose of it. And we thought a good use would also be the CPR and first aid training.
I saw that. And then in regards to, I guess this may be more of a Steve question, but we'll shoot with you first here. Your charges for services. So in 19, it was a little over 3 million, and then last year and this year, it's like 1.7 million. Why did it drop so much over the course of those years?
Certainly, we had the decrease in personnel, and it depends on the type of work orders that are coming in. I hope I answered that. He's going to say I have it reversed again.
You have it reversed again. So the state moved out of Reculin and Majestic Center in 2020.
Okay.
Boy, I was way off.
So then the supplies and services are, I'm guessing, are we contracting more of our services out rather than increasing our employee count?
We definitely try to keep the work in-house, in particular with the boiler and trades personnel. They like to keep the work. Sometimes it's not possible for us. We don't either have the equipment or are unable to devote the time to the project.
Okay.
So it's like a balancing act.
And then you talked about earlier about the insurance. I always thought the insurance was in a separate budget under risk management, or in your budget, Steve, and then it was billed back out.
You're talking about liability insurance?
Liability billed across the
No,
board.
the property insurance has always been charged to the facilities budget, and then it's cost, or charged back out through the indirect cost plan.
Okay.
The liability insurance and all of those costs, litigation and all that's paid out of a separate liability insurance fund, and that's charged back to all the departments through payroll.
Okay. So the property is the only one that exists in this budget?
Where we pay premiums and all those sorts of things directly.
Okay. I think I had one more question, but I may have forgot it now. It'll dawn on me later. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Lynn, would you touch on why did we pick up maintenance on this facility that the owner doesn't want to do anymore?
I don't have a lot of the background information, but Community Action actually houses some of their programs in the former George Washington School, and they refer to it as the Family Resource Center. I'm not sure, I don't deal with the school system, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but they asked us if we would assume the cleaning, also some building repair and equipment repair. I can certainly find out more information.
Why did we say yes?
Apparently, the school is not responding to some of the needs, and they felt it was important to provide the cleaning service and also some building repairs and maintenance.
Are there any other facilities that are in this kind of a situation where we're not really the owner?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you, Chair. I had spoken with the director, I think about 2 months ago, and he explained the situation to me. They weren't keeping it up. They wanted to charge way too much. I'm not sure. I forget which one it is now. So he, in essence, needed someone to clean that building because they do a lot of things in that building. There's a lot of activities in that building. There's carpeting, there's not carpeting. And so he went to our government to get help. He went to Lynn and said, hello, I need help. And Lynn said, of course. And so that's why he has activities in there. The building has to be cleaned properly. And there's children in there. There's all kinds of activities in there. So he's at that time he was going to be making trying to make a determination on what next steps he may be taking, but he had to get someone immediately or within a period of time. So they're taking care of that for us, and until he decides to move out or not move out, I don't know that he is. He probably is not at this time, and that's the situation. Had to be done.
And if I could add, I don't think we expect this to be a long-term requirement. So
that was my next question.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Wallace?
Thank you, Chair. Just about the Washington School, it's completely vacant. There hasn't been any activity in the school. I can say that because I live right by it. I see it every day. But Mount Clemens School does not have the budget to take care of the vacant school, and it does need the regular upkeep and cleaning. Though it is vacant, I think we go there to vote, but that's some activities that were held there pre-COVID, of course, hasn't come back. Hopefully they will come back, but the school is very low in maintenance for the couple of schools that they do have that are open to the children. So the schools that are vacant, they weren't able to have the staff or the custodial staff to take care of the vacant school from the board meetings that I've been a part of. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. I remember what I was going to ask you. On your goals, you actually had your trainings for $3,000, and your budget is $3,000. So thank you for being so detailed. But I'm looking at your utilities line item. I know in the past we used to get grants on the energy side, and we implemented some stuff. Is there any grants out there that you're looking towards to possibly implement in the future?
We don't see a lot of grants anymore. A lot of times there were grants available, like if you switch to LED lighting. Well, now that's considered the standard. So those kind of grants seem to have dried up a little bit.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 7B, Information Technology. Jaco?
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft made a motion to receive and file, supported by Commissioner Hall.
Commissioners, we have pretty much 3-4 big areas where we, regarding our spending that influence most of our budget. The first one is obviously salaries. We also gave up 3.5 positions, 2 years ago or last year. And in this year's budget, we've requested one of those positions back out of a dire need that we have. We did not request the full position back. We requested a reduced form of that position back, and it was a business system analyst position. We asked for a junior business system analyst position and gave up about $20,000, if I remember correctly, in benefits and salary for that position. The need is in our security area. As everyone knows, in security, things are just growing exponentially. The bad actors, as they call them, cause a lot of problems. And the system on their side is becoming very organized. We've done pretty well with our cybersecurity so far and want to continue to do a good job. So we believe that that position was absolutely necessary to support our security administrator. That's really the biggest change from last year. Other than that, our salaries have stayed pretty consistent. We also have a big line item in maintenance, as you all know. I come to you on a regular basis with maintenance items. We had a big uptick in maintenance from last year to this year, which was mainly due to the CARES Act implementations that we did the end of last year. Was a very significant undertaking and did a lot of projects, but it added about $1 million in maintenance to our maintenance spending. The other area, obviously, is our capital budget. Capital budget vary from year to year. A large portion of our capital budget depend on the needs of our clients. We have a process where we go to each department throughout the, before budget time, around about April, May. We sit down with each department and give everyone an opportunity to discuss with us what their needs are regarding information technology. Obviously, a lot of those things we provide, but a lot of those, like case management systems, big changes in the way they do business and so forth, those things we have to budget for in our capital budget. Our capital budget this year, when we presented our budget last year, we predicted for $3.5 million. Our actual capital request this year is $6.2 million. That's a very significant increase. The main reason for that increase is in our case management system for the sheriff's office. It was in our budget at $730,000. The bids came back and we went through all the bids, and we have 2 vendors left. We've pretty much at a point where a decision has been made, but not at the time of budget submission. I didn't have those numbers available. But at this point in time, the budget that we gave, $2.47 million instead of $730,000, which is a $1.7 million increase in that budget, was for the highest bidder of the 2 that we were looking at. Once we through negotiations and everything, we believe that number will come down significantly. But I cannot remove that from the budget at this point in time. We also have the replacement that I just talked to you about for Quatran. That came up. We actually put that in next year's budget just as a precaution because we were not sure how. But those are really the 2 main items that brought our budgets up significantly. At the clerk's office, we have 3 systems that they want to implement. The one is a tracked index system. It will allow us the ability to locate parcels, or the clerk's office will allow the public to locate parcels based on a parcel ID or a tax ID. This would also tie into our countywide GIS system and how we are looking at standardizing parcel ID. Right now we have many different areas in our organization that use parcel IDs, but they use it kind of independently. There's no cohesive way of making sure, because if they can do that, they can. It's obviously less data entry and also more accurate. So that's one part. We have to do a slight upgrade next year to the ES&S election system for $28,000, and then they also want to implement a Tyler Eagle recorder system at the clerks. It provides access for local filers and small business, for government-to-government resources. It's at a small license fee and a technology fee passed on to the filer to allow Tyler to maintain and provide support for the website. It also allows the public and funeral homes the ability to upload documents, request electronic certification, and allow for digital signatures for birth, death, and marriage certificates.
Excuse me, Jacob, have we wandered into capital improvement items?
Yes.
Okay, we're just on the information technology right now.
Oh.
We'll get back to this in just a second. So with 6B, with the information technology, Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. Jacob, you're kind of to describe your department, the will of the customer, who is Macomb County.
That's correct.
I noticed you mentioned the Sheriff's Department, you mentioned the Clerk's Department, you mentioned it's a rarity, and probably the first time I've seen it, that another department head comes in and speaks on your behalf supporting your budget so that he can get what he needs in his department. And I'm almost amazed, and I've admitted readily and often, I'm not an IT expert. You know, my grandson shows me how to use my telephone. And if Luke was here, we could ask him a lot of questions too. It just seemed to me, every time you showed up, it was $500,000 for this, or $1 million for this, or $1.5 million for this. And most of us are kind of sitting here scratching our heads going, we have to trust your judgment. There may be other experts on here, and I know Commissioner Van Sickle asked a lot of questions, so I'm going to put him into the category of knowing a lot more. Whether you do or you don't, Don, you get there on this subject matter. But I found it quite surprising and amazing that another department head shows up and supports your budget. Didn't ask anything for his yet, but we know that's coming. And supported yours. Same thing with the clerk's office. They have talked technology and the need for more and greater technology and resources to handle the technology. Just because it's new and great and wonderful doesn't mean you know how to use it. So you've got the burden of answering your customers' needs and then training them to be able to use that. And I was looking at the headcount across the various departments. You get next to Lynn and the Sheriff's Department pretty close to the largest largest staff in the county budget. So I probably haven't asked a question yet, but the statement speaks for itself. You're a very important part of keeping the whole government running. I mean, I don't know if you can flip a switch and turn it on or off, but it seems to me that the incremental increases that you've had, we put off a lot of stuff that you came in here and asked for. And I'm not sure if you're trying to get it all back now or just get some of it back. But to your credit, it looks to me like technology is going to be, and I had asked, I think it was Lynn, about is there a future cost savings here, short-term, long-term? I'm thinking you're the only one that can answer that question. So that's my question. Ultimately, when we get through with what you're requesting here, do you see short-term or long-term cost savings?
That's a very difficult question, and we went
Took a
through
long
that
time
question.
to ask it, too.
We actually went through that question, I think, about 2 years ago. A very hard question to answer, and I'm not trying to avoid the question. Absolutely, when I sit down, do my budgets, I always look at where can we save money, where can we do things better. But it's a delicate balance between improving our environment and making sure that we stay with the times. I started this IT department 18 years ago, and you know, for the first I would say 5-10 years, we had a very, very low budget in IT. But we also struggled, you know, and I remember times when we were 10, 11, 12 years behind current technology, made it extremely hard. And when the executive form of government came in 2011, we started making ground and started getting IT back on track so we can at least do things like a 5-year PC replacement plan, so we don't get our PCs older than 5 years. Staying with the times when it comes to our systems that we have out there. When your systems get outdated, the performance go, companies don't want to support you anymore, and it becomes extremely difficult. So that's the one side of it. The other side of it is to, as technology change, one of the things I always try to figure out, believe me, I'm an IT guy, and I'm trying to figure this out, is, for example, when virtualization happened. What virtualization do for you, it takes one device and you can put 10 servers on that one device, where previously you had to buy one server for each purpose, right? So wouldn't that make sense that that's going to be way cheaper? If you can do that, you can have 10 systems on one computer or one server. In theory, yes. But then comes your virtualization software on top of that hardware. And at the end of the day, that technology is more expensive than what we used to use. When we had separate computers and I could buy one server for one big system, or 2 or 3 servers for that system. Now, I have to do that with virtualization, which is excellent technology. It gives us redundancy, uptime, all these things that we all want. We don't want our systems down. But those are the things that you have to balance and make sure that, like I said, on the one hand, you keep your budget with the times, but you also try not to spend too much money. In other words, you use your money wisely. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's not an easy balance. It doesn't just translate to savings down the road. And the main reason is there's no other area of business where technology changed so quickly than in IT. Chips, bandwidth, all these things that change that we want so that you can sit at home and you can do everything from home. We waited a long time for that from a 56K modem. But now we have it, but that technology costs money. The infrastructure to keep that in place, have that in place today. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is now the technology that you now can use, for example, with COVID, all the remote work that we're doing and all these things. It's a complete 180 degree of the way we did business before. And now we got to make sure that we keep up with that technology as well. Not that we didn't before, but we had it in very limited capacity. Now we got to make sure our whole workforce can pretty much operate in that manner. So, yes, I know it's a tough question. I'm not trying to skirt the question, but I'm willing to sit down with you, Commissioner, anytime to discuss technology and what our challenges are.
I think you better stick with Don on that. So, excuse me? So
Thank you,
in summary,
Commissioner.
a lot of your budget is honoring the requests of other departments in the county to try and service their needs. Is that a good
That's
analysis?
correct. And then when you look at my organization, we have a business office, which is project managers and business system analysts. We have network specialists, who are the people that work on these infrastructure devices. They're the technical guys that keep these things up and running. We have technicians that go all over the county and make sure that devices are up and running. People call to the help desk. They cover the help desk, everything. And then we have a development office, which develop interfaces, reports, programs where necessary, so that we can service, especially in niche areas, service our customers better. Those things are all geared really to our customers, because our business office, those are the offices, or that's the office that sit down with our customers, looking at their needs. I have a liaison for each department, making sure that we service that customer well. So we are very customer focused, in the county. We're obviously an internal services department, as our committee says, and And, we take pride in that, but that's really what drives a lot of our business. But then at the same time, we have to make sure that our customers have the environment to operate in, which is all the peripheral stuff, all the network that, outside, being able to access resources outside of our environment and the other way around, those type of things.
Thank you. And having a former conversation with my former seatmate over here last year when you kept coming up with these $300,000, $400,000 licensing and requirement, I turned to Phil and said, when does this stop? And if you recall, your answer was never. So with that, thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There's so many jokes I could use on Commissioner Hall right now, but I'm just glad you replaced the technology from when Steve started and had his abacus. So first of all, I want to commend you on keeping the personnel and the contract services costs down. Secondly, something that might help us dissect this a little bit more is knowing that you're like 1.4 million over inflation the last 3 years on maintenance. Perhaps you can put a schedule together for us or a graph. Take your top 10 maintenance agreements perhaps, and so we can see where that money is being spent a little bit better, so we can make a more informed decision instead of just saying, yeah, it's a one-off here, one-off here, one-off here. But the top 10 should give us a good picture of the big projects, so we know how to go forward with those bigger expenses in the future. That would probably help us.
I can do that.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Kind of to continue what Commissioner Farrington was talking about, I agree 100%. Just looking at the capital outlay line item that you have, I think it's really tough for me and probably all the other commissioners is that when you're looking at an individual department's budget and you're servicing them, it's all in your budget, but we can't really see what their needs are because it's buried in your budget. And I think that's really hard with some departments when they need services, they need technology. Obviously, we heard it earlier today, and we assume it's being given to them, but we don't know because it's not in their budget, it's in your budget. I do recall years ago when we did have a IT audit done and where we stood and where we needed to be, and I know you've been getting to that spot, Jaco, and I know that's already outdated, and it's like you need another one, and then you get to that point and you're outdated again. So you have a really tough job. It's very challenging because it's always changing. I do have a big concern with cybersecurity. I'm curious, have we contracted or have we gone through a cybersecurity audit?
Yes.
And what were the results of that, and where, your goals going forward, because obviously that's the hot topic right now.
Yeah, quite honestly, Commissioner, it's such a large, topic or big topic that I would like to, at some point in time, come to the Commission and do a presentation so you can understand how cybersecurity works in Macomb County. But I can give you a brief overview of what we've done with our cyber program. In, I think, around about 2014 or 15, we were able to procure a security administrator, which was Stephen Minato, and he was our first security administrator that we had, and Stephen started the program for us. He did an excellent job. When I became director, we did a search for vendors that we can use, in the cybersecurity space. The reason we did that, we were really looking for a partner that can help us, because a security administrator is not at the top level of security administration. It's, a position like that, Oakland County has one. It's a $180,000 position. Not something we wanted to do. We decided to do it on that basis, have a security administrator, and then have a security company that augment our cybersecurity program. The current vendor, which we procured through RFQ, is CBI. We're planning on early next year to go out to RFQ again. They've been in place for 3 years now. And we work with CBI. They have, top level CISO level IT specialists that can help us, if there's anything. And we sit down with them on a quarterly basis, discuss our environment, and then determine is there any changes that we need to make. With that, we also have what we call a 20-point control system that was developed. We started off with a different one, eventually switched. We've been using this system now for, I think we're in the 3rd year now. And what that does is it gives us scores, and it started with a security evaluation that was done independently. Came in and they did a security assessment of our whole department. And IT in Macomb County. So at that point in time, from that we developed that 20-point system. We got a score. That score every year is increasing, and you can see it in sort of a spider graph. You can see how our security score increase every year. I can also just mention to you, earlier this year, NACO sent out what they believe should be in place for government security, cybersecurity, as far as that's concerned. I went through and I just did an assessment of that, and we qualified on 80% of those items that they had listed. We had those in place. So yes, I mean, security is one of those things. You can spend $1 million or 10 million or, whatever. It is expensive, but what we try to do is the best thing we can to make sure. But I would gladly, if the commission wanted me to, come at some point in time and do a full presentation on
I think that'd be a great idea at a later date.
Okay.
And then you talked about getting our computers and everything on a consistent basis updated, no longer than 5 years. So have you implemented like an inventory management system so that you know exactly what's going on with all your inventory now?
Yeah, we have a system in IT. It's actually a Microsoft system that we use that tell us the age. So we look at the BIOS and tell us the exact age of the computer. So at the end of the year when we do budgets, my technical supervisor will go through them and let us know about which systems need to be replaced in the coming year. And we do that for 5 years ahead. So we have that in place today.
And then last question, just kind of to follow up with Commissioner Farrington in regards to that capital outlay line item. Could you also provide us in that list what departments those are specifically for that are the big asks here?
In capital outlay?
Yeah.
Obviously, the bigger departments, the sheriff's office, the courts are probably the biggest asks.
And then in regards to the maintenance too, because of those contracts.
Yeah, but then there's other areas. There's other areas too in the capital outlay. There's also line items for Cisco devices that we have to replace, and that's older devices or devices that gives us issue that's not under warranty. We also have a budget for phones, a line item specific, so that's more enterprise level. So we have quite a few of those different items as well.
Going forward, as your budget's getting larger, and it's specifically getting larger to these other departments, do you think, maybe this is a Steve question, as these numbers keep getting larger and larger and larger, and your budget's being inflated by those passive costs, they're not directly related to your budget specifically, is that something that we should look for in the future in putting those into those specific departments, Steve? Is that something that, maybe we can talk offline on this.
I would like to talk offline. I would believe, I think where you're going to see more of the significant increases will probably be the maintenance line item.
Okay.
Because I would guess, I think if you look back in 19, forward. The capital outlay is sort of recurring requests that are fairly.
So you're talking specific to those maintenance contracts, those that we're paying on a per employee basis, per license basis?
And a lot of those are enterprise-wide sort of things.
Okay, thank you, Jaco. Thank you, Chair.
Welcome.
Thank you. Seeing no other requests, please vote. Okay.
Motion passes 12-0. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll get back to item 7C for the capital improvement plan, and I would like a motion to receive and file.
So moved by Nard.
Support Wallace.
Thank you. Commissioner Narn made a motion to receive and file, and Commissioner Wallace? Okay, and then support by Commissioner Nard. I thought it was Nard and Wallace. Am I? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Is someone speaking on the Capitol?
I'll start. I'm not going to get into individual projects. Just well, sort of repeating the obvious, I think, but as a matter of introduction, as a matter, obviously I have the plan in front of you. We've broken down the report as we normally do between the facilities items and IT items. You'll see specifically for 2022, there's a little over $27 million of projects on the list. We have also a schedule of funding sources. As indicated, about $11 million would be scheduled to come from general fund contributions, some from carry forwards of fund balances in the capital improvement fund that I've mentioned previously, and some other grant funding and some capital money and other capital projects funds. One thing we did add this year at Lynn's recommendation, which I thought was an excellent idea, was adding pictures to the facility items to give folks an idea of the condition of some of the items. I thought that was a really, really good idea, so thank you to Lynn for that. I think it was very, very helpful, better than when I looked at it, I thought, wow, this is really impactful. So just wanted to give her a shout out for that, and then I will just turn it over to Lynn and Jaco to talk about individual projects.
I'll focus on the 2022 items, and the first item is 2.0. That is for Old Century Receiving, and that's to replace the electrical transformer and pad. The transformer that serves that building is actually a ground-mounted electrical power distribution transformer. This type of transformer is used when you have underground electrical lines. And this transformer will step down the power from the primary voltage, and it will lower it to the secondary voltage entering the building. What we are seeing over time is actually the pad is sinking to the point that we can no longer actually remove the cover to this transformer. This is scheduled for 2021. It's currently in the engineering process, so we can go out for bids on the Mitten site. Things have been slow in design due to COVID, so we don't anticipate actually performing this until 2022. The next item I have is 5.0, and that's the Freedom Hill Storage Barn. This storage barn is approximately 1,500 square feet. It's about 50 by 30. It is well over 40 years old, and it is used to house lawn equipment, grounds care equipment, and also park equipment. It is definitely in needs of replacement. The concrete floor has deteriorated in sections, and we certainly feel that we need to protect the equipment inside that storage facility. The next item is 6.0, and this is when we start talking about the jail. This is a mechanical upgrade. We are totally focusing on the tower, and the whole idea is to extend the life of the tower. But we have some mechanical equipment that is original to the facility, meaning it's from about 1986, 85, 86. We occupied in 87. And two of the items is it's the replacement of the heat recovery wheel. And that is a type of energy recovery heat exchanger. And its purpose is to transfer heat and humidity. And the supply air is warmed and humidified in the winter, and then it is cooled and dehumidified in the summer. Also, we want to rebuild an AC chiller and also rebuild the pumps. The AC chiller removes heat from the cooling coils to the atmosphere using multiple fans, and that is to provide cooling within an area. As I indicated, these are both original items. They are certainly beyond the end of their useful life. Parts become more difficult to maintain. Also, the next item is 6.2, which is a staggering number. We are talking about replacing sanitary, domestic water, and fire piping within the jail tower. It is, pushing 36 years. What we have noticed when we have made some repairs, I really wanted to bring a sampling of the piping that we are getting out of that facility, and I think that would speak 1,000 words. I'm also trying to get more pictures. We couldn't find the actual piping, but we do have some pictures, and I will forward those. But they are deteriorating, and like I said, we're trying to extend the life of this tower, and when we say extend the life, we'd like to get another 25, 30 years out of that tower. And what we would like to do is the first step, we would like to hire the professional services necessary to evaluate the piping. I don't suspect they'll see anything different within that facility than what we're seeing, but we will take a look to see how it can be evaluated so we can show you the deterioration and also then eventually get to the steps of bidding the project out. We believe this project will take multiple years to complete. 6.4 is also the jail, and this is the jail cell door replacements. In an effort by the sheriff to occupy the tower only, he has relocated maximum security inmates, and these are classified as level 8 inmates. They require a higher security level due to the seriousness of their charge or also for behavioral issues. Unfortunately, on all the tower levels, the cell doors, there's only 2 doors on each of the mezzanine levels that have food chutes. And it's a real security concern because they have to open these doors multiple times a day. So they have requested food chutes. There are 18 cell doors in each unit. We have 6 units each in these levels. It wouldn't have mattered, like I said, whether he moved them to 2 different levels, we would have the same issue. We also added a few to replace because some of the doors that do have food chutes have deteriorated. So we included those in the count. Next item is also for the jail, item 6.6. And this is the installation of upper level barriers. And in order to safeguard inmates within that tower, there has been a request for corrections grade mesh or an alternate product installed on the mezzanine railings on each of the floors, and that would be floors 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 because it's a mezzanine, and also down the stairwells. I think the picture best illustrates what they're trying to prevent. And this barrier barrier would be installed at the top railing of the mezzanine and would extend to the ceiling. This mesh we have to maintain visibility for the cameras and corrections officers, but also we have to have something that they cannot use to climb. Another item, jail again, 6.7, and this is the sanitary line replacement in a certain section of the jail, and it is also the renovation of the locker room and forensic tech lab. It probably sounds familiar to you. We are currently in the design process. Then they will prepare the bid documents, but we don't believe we'll see actual activity until 2022, so that is why it's appearing. The next item is 6.8, and that's an upgrade to the air conditioning for the secondary data hub. I've discussed with Jaco currently the secondary or the backup system, and I'm sure Jaco could correct me if I'm wrong in the terminology. It is actually in the basement of the jail, and we are trying to provide a more appropriate environment for that type of equipment, but we're dealing with a lot of building constraints. So we're also going to be discussing the possibility of maybe relocating this hub to a building that is more suited for that type of environment. Item 8.1 is the Juvenile Justice Center. We want to replace the 3 domestic hot water boilers. These boilers are approximately 20 years old. They're at the end of their service life, and we are finding parts difficult to obtain. These hot water boilers each are 1 million BTUs, so they're rather large hot water boiler systems. The next item is 16.0. And that is the Verkulen building renovation. This has been in the capital plan. We thought we would be further along. The Verkulen building was constructed in '75. We had an addition in '89, and we also did a renovation of approximately 35,000 square feet for the state in 1998. In August of 2020, the state vacated this area of the facility. And you're probably most familiar, this is the area where the immunization for COVID is happening. It was our intent to renovate this area for the health department, to relocate employees or staff of the health department that's located at the Mount Clemens Health Center, and eventually demolish the Mount Clemens Health Center. Due to COVID, everything sort of came to a screeching halt. The upside is we think it makes sense to take a step back and have the county really look at the delivery of services. While the county did an exemplary job during the pandemic, it also showed some areas of improvement. And also remote working is going to dramatically affect what we renovate over there. We see a continuation of remote working, or at least a hybrid, that is going to impact the square footage that you actually need. So we're in the process. We had just interviewed for a capital development strategy and space needs assessment. They're going to include not only the health department, but all those departments in the Verkulen building. They're also going to look at the 2 satellite facilities, the one at 10 and Harper, Southeast Health Center, and also Majestic Plaza. What is unique about this is there's a real estate element to it. They're also going to look at where is the client base. Maybe we don't need 2 facilities. Maybe we need another facility that's centrally located. So this will be coming before the board very shortly. We have item 17.0, and that's the boathouse and construction and seawall replacement. The original boathouse was constructed in '78 with an addition and docks in 1985. Due to age, coupled with when we had the period of high water levels, it did a lot of damage, actually, to that facility. We're also, the garage where they store some of the boats, it actually doesn't suit their needs anymore. The boats are longer, they're higher, and it no longer serves their purpose. Obviously, we are proceeding with design development and with the intent of doing construction documents in January, and we will bring the bid results back to this board. Also, the next item, 17.0, building management system. As I indicated, that is a computer-based control system. We have been, over the past several years, trying to tie our equipment into the building management system. We are actually tapering down that expenditure, and it'll eventually just be a maintenance item, and most likely will not appear in the capital plan. So as we get new equipment, we will put the controls on and tie it into the building management system. The next item is the underground electrical. We had, several years ago, we actually had the primary lines tested over at the service center. And we have been doing a phased replacement of those lines because it showed a weakening of the lines. And we are, what is projected in the 2022 budget or capital plan is what we call the final phase, and that is the tie-in to the jail. I want to mention we were going to do the phase 3. Bids came in. There is such a large disparity that we need to be able to reconcile what the issue is. There's so much of a disparity, we don't believe they can do the project. So we may be tying project or phase 3 to phase 4, and we also wanted to wait on phase 4 to see where the central intake, where that is going to be in what area or location at the jail. Because we may need to relocate that entire line. And I believe that is all the items under 2022. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrington?
Thank you, Chair. Just a newbie question, and it's probably more towards Steve. This isn't in the budget book, correct? Is there a reason that we don't have this included with everything else?
Historical, it's a separate, it's a plan. We don't have it in the budget.
In the future, could we have it all together so we can look at the budget in the whole, if it's okay with the chair? I mean, I'm going to acquiesce to more senior members here, but it seems like it's a very large part of the budget, and yet it's not part of the budget book, so.
It could be an appendix we could consider.
Yeah, just put it in there.
It wouldn't be in the part of the budget. The only thing that's connected this to the budget is the general fund contribution.
Thank you.
It's so special, we wanted to keep it separate.
Just as long as it's in there somewhere in printed material for us old people. Thank you.
Commissioner Matusik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. There's a whole bunch of boilers on this list. And some of them are actually pushed quite far out, 2026. Installing high-efficiency boilers seems to me is actually a way to sort of save some money. But we pushed most of them out farther.
Yes, we certainly, what we do, we apply sort of a end of its useful life. Yes, some boilers are more efficient. We try to get every ounce of life out of the equipment. maybe to a fault sometimes. But we also take into consideration the cash flow available also. And I want to also indicate a lot of these numbers are placeholders. We do not have the professional services at this time to refine the numbers. So some of the numbers are frankly a little scary to me. And I hope they come down a bit. But I just wanted you to know that it's not etched in stone as far as these numbers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Lynn. Regarding all the work being done in the jail, we got a $7 million item coming up. The consultants and architects that help us do that, we've had a variety of them through the years over there. Professional services, how is that going to be determined? Who's going to get that job to navigate through this $7 million project? And we got somebody lined up for the diversion process. Do you envision having one, or do you envision having three? Or can you speak about that?
It depends. Obviously, some of the architectural firms have worked extensively on the jail. A lot of times when we're trying to retrofit something, they have all the background information. They're very familiar. In the case of the jail, you also have Partners in Architecture who was in the process of looking at a new jail or the cost of renovating the old jail. So when the time comes, we will take a look at architectural services. Maybe it's a bundling of some of these projects together. We'll take a look at is it more economically feasible to package things together? But we do not have at this time any architectural firm in mind.
PAE was paid a considerable amount of money for the design of the jail. It never happened.
They did what we call like the schematic design. There wasn't construction documents, but yes. Yes.
And it seems like we should have credits from them for work that we've got to some of the work we wanted to do now, some of the things that this board approved previously in the year. What's your relationship with them? Do you envision that?
They're a good firm. They brought in the next necessary expertise. They had on their team architectural firms also that specialize in jails and detention facilities across the country. They had a jail consultant involved. So they were definitely equipped to provide the design.
Mm-hmm. Is there any value in having someone that's worked in there that did previous work? Is that they had the luxury of coming in, let's build a brand new structure, and now we're digging in and replacing these 36-year-old pipes. There may be people around that were involved when we installed some of them and repaired it in the past.
Yes.
I guess I'm just paying attention to who we bring in over there, because it is a lot of money, and we want to make sure we get value for it.
Yes.
And also want to bring someone in that doesn't make the mistake. I remember we were tearing down the Medea Hotel. That was an experience of running across things that no one even knew were there, and I think and the old youth home. That thing was a Gothic structure that we had to tear down. And
yes.
There were issues, and dealing with old buildings is an issue, and
absolutely.
And having people that are experienced working around them in the past might be helpful than someone that wants to come in and build a brand new one.
Yes, that's where a lot of these RFIs come in, requests for information, because they open something up and it's totally different than what the drawing says.
And we have the benefit of having someone with you with your long experience in the county that know the history and the pluses and minuses of people that have come before us. So I rely on your judgment, and obviously the team will make a decision and bring a recommendation to us. But that's important. That's an important cog in this whole thing with the jail over there. So appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
And, thank you. And if I could add, I will be forwarding some more pictures. I think it's real helpful, and certainly if you want to tour any of the locations to actually see what we're talking about, we'd be more than happy to arrange that.
That's true. Jaco, did you have some things to add?
Sorry, Commissioners, I jumped the gun earlier a little bit, but I'll just continue with what was there. The next department is really our health department. Quite a few of the things that at the health department has been held back. As a matter of fact, all their projects were held back because of COVID. They just didn't have the bandwidth and the staff to deal with it. But we have some smaller items, which is a lab interface with the state of Michigan. It will automatically populate M&M when results come in to send and receive lab orders electronically for $12,500. Then they also want a MICR HL7 bidirectional interface. Implementing this is with MICR, and due to COVID-19, this was not accomplished, but is critical to implementation, to implement this in 2022. The environmental integrated system, we came to this board with the first phase in 2019, and that project was started and obviously stopped during COVID. We are now in the process of picking that up again, and that's only the first phase. There's a total of 3 phases to this project. So in the budget also we have $132,270 for next year for phase 2. So hopefully we can accomplish phase 1 and 2 next year. It's going to be difficult. The health department, you know, obviously have a lot of challenges from resource standpoint. And then also for my department, the IT department, we have a line item for $490,000, and that is to keep up to date our compute and storage environment. Now you might ask me, you know, just 2 years ago we bought new arrays, which is where we housed all our virtual our whole virtual environment. It is still driven by servers. So each server provide resources, which is processing speed, memory, and so forth. And that is shared between all the virtual servers. So those servers are now due for replacement. So we're going to start replacing some of those servers next year. We also use those for VDI, which is a virtual desktop interface. This is something we started before COVID, but it became much more important during COVID. And what virtual desktop interface do for you is it's a virtual PC, but the virtual PC sits in the office here. In other words, at our data center and works locally on our network. When you dial into a high-end database from home, for instance, GIS that the planning department use, there is just not enough bandwidth to run those transactions unless you have a really, really good internet connection, which we don't have. So for that reason, we create a virtual desktop, which is in-house at Comtech. And all it is a virtual desktop that runs on a server. So you can just access it virtually from home, from your laptop. But then when you do your database access, it will go just internally on the network, the communications, and not having to go over a wide area network link. We also have 2 payments in there, which is the Isilon Power Protect and Cloud Finance payment, as well as software-defined networking. Those are 2 projects we brought to you that started in the CARES Act as CARES Act projects. for the components that qualified for CARES Act. The rest of the components are financed by Macomb County, and these are 0% interest finance payments over a period of 5 years. Those are both very significant, $377,000, as well as the software-defined networking one for $865,000. And we bring those to the board every time we have to make a payment for it. And then also I talked about VDI earlier. We also have a line item of $75,000 for VDI licensing, and that is to run the licensing that's needed for each virtual desktop that you put out there. We also have a surveillance camera expansion budget of $40,000, and that is a $40,000 amount for the next 5 years, for each year. And we discussed one of those needs earlier that I presented to you. And then we also have a conversion for us to convert the county from Google to Exchange. And I know there's a lot of resistance. There's also some people that, like Microsoft environment. It is something that we believe we have to do, talking about savings in the county. Right now, that will bring in a $300,000 savings for us to use the Microsoft licenses that we already own versus having to buy Google licenses, a cloud-hosted system every year. So that will literally save us almost $300,000 a year. There's also items or components of the video wall that we have to replace next year. They end of life, and we cannot get maintenance on those devices. It's for $165,000. That is slated for 2022. There is, if I remember correctly, a 24 item for about $1 million to replace the actual video wall. But that is not until that time. We also have $50,000 for environmentals, and that is in our IDFs, our closets where we have our IT equipment in the different buildings. We have, in some of them now, we have air and so forth. In quite a few of those, we have no air. It's not good for our equipment. So we're kind of cleaning those up, making sure we have cooling in those areas so that the equipment doesn't easily damage. For our electronic document management initiative, which is really the county's move towards paperless or being paperless as far as possible. And that also, as you can imagine, during COVID became very important because a lot of people work remotely. We have $80,000 a year in our budget for scanning and building workflows and so forth. We also have monitoring solution, $70,000 for next year, and that is monitoring in my department of systems. It is good for us and it's good for our clients to know, so that we can know in advance when a system is experiencing problems. So there are many of these that we use today, but just recently, for example, we had a CGIS lien audit, and a new thing with CGIS lien is you have to have a monitoring system for certain parameters that we did not have before. So we're going to look at new system and what we can use for that so we can implement that and be in compliance. I think the prosecuting attorney talked earlier about the items that's important to him, but specifically mentioned the digital evidence management system. They also have another request For a system called Live Person, it's $9,000, and this is for off-the-shelf web service from Live Person to provide efficient SMS chat and other chat-based communications with crime victims and witnesses. And then at the Sheriff's Department, we have Polycoms setups. Polycoms is what they use for the video arraignment at the Sheriff's Office. They also Zoom setups. They want this in 5 classrooms with mini PCs and then also 2 behind the jail. They also need what they call an iRecord system for 2 rooms located behind the jail office. The system is used to enhance video recordings for evidence. So when we have surveillance video or any type of video, once you find what you're looking for and you have all the information, from that point forward, that data needs to be saved if it's related to a case or anything. So it needs to be saved, needs to be searchable, need to be able to easily find the information and so forth. And they put that in an evidence system and they use iRecord to do that. I talked about the offender track jail management system, which we have in next year's budget as well. We already did the RFP for it. We will come either in November or December for board approval for the new system. The Sheriff's Office also need to expand their video surveillance cameras from 60 days, which is the current length of time that they keep their videos, to 90 days. So for that, we need $165,000. Any questions, Commissioners?
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. I was just kind of thinking here for a second. Years ago, when we didn't have a capital improvement plan, thank God we got one implemented, because there's just so much stuff that goes on here. One of the line items that you had here, Jaco, was the camera expansion. You said 40,000 each year, and then I know what year this is. 2024, 625,000.
That is a replacement of the downtown buildings. We did the downtown renovations, and at that time, I think that system is 5 or 6 years old. I have to look. I think it's actually 6 years old.
So we have to replace the entire system?
We put that in the budget. We have to at least replace what's needed. I truly cannot say today what the cost is going to be if we can replace just partial, components of the system. The problem is if the technology changes significantly, then, it becomes more difficult, like the situation we have today at the Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Brown?
Jaco, on the last item regarding the expanding of the jail surveillance from 60 to 90 days, whose edict was that? Who made that? That sounds like something's happened. Somebody issued an edict from somewhere up above that said we shall do that.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve, if you know anything about it, 90 days. You mentioned, we talked about it.
If it was the state of Michigan, we could bill them for it under Headley.
But what happened was we, about 2 or 3 years ago, Stephen Minato, who was our security administrator at that point in time, sat down with all the departments, looked at, video retention, because obviously that costs money. So we had to make sure that we understand what the strain is going to be on our storage environment. And we did a study, and we wrote a policy for video retention for each and every video that we know of in the county, or groups of video and so forth. The Sheriff's Department was consulted, and it was determined that we're going to use 60 days. They recently told us that they have to expand that to 90 days. Whether that is coming from the state of Michigan or From the sheriff office.
Inside of your area.
I don't know that, yeah.
Okay.
But I can find that out for you if you want me to.
I'd like to. Are those the body cams?
No, this is,
Because we spend a lot of money for
That-
storage space for our body cams.
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure the money needed for this is surveillance.
All right. What about the last year's capital plan? How much is left in the capital budget from last year's planning in your area?
I have to look, Commissioner.
You can let us
I really
know.
don't have that number offhand, but
And how many projects are still ongoing? That type
yeah,
of thing, just to see where we're at.
we still have a few projects that's ongoing. I can provide you a list of all of them so you can see what's continuing, but like I said, for this year, there's not maybe 1 or 2 projects that we will come from this year's budget to the board.
Did COVID hurt or help your progress towards your goals last year?
COVID helped us tremendously.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote. Well, we're going to reaffirm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 8, Commissioner's comments. Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make a quick correction on what I said earlier. I live by Wilson School, not Washington School, but nevertheless, you are right about the kids being at Washington. A daycare does rent out a small portion on the east side of the Washington School, and then the county uses a bit of that space as well to receive documents like WIC information or housing assistance, that kind of stuff. But the Mount Clemens School District does not use that building at all. So I think it would be a good question for Ernest, because I don't think that the school itself plans on taking back over that service of cleaning and stuff like that. So that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Zinner. You're showing up. Okay, we'll move on. Commissioner Matusik.
Thank you. On Saturday, Macomb County is hosting its first annual Pride Festival in downtown Mount Clemens. I've prepared a quick little tribute for that. If anyone wishes to add their name to it, see me after the meeting.
Thank you. I see no other commissioners, or did you go back on? I didn't touch it. Okay. Seeing no one else, no other commissioners who wish to comment, we'll move on to public participation. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to comment, speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item that is on any issue at all? Second call, any public participation? Third call, we'll close public participation and move on to item 10, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Second, support.
Thank you. As usual, Commissioner Romano made a motion to adjourn and Commissioner Haas seconded. Please vote.
I take it all back, Steve. I thought you talked a lot. Jacob must have been watching you.
Okay, Joe.